Book 7, Part 3 of Ovid's Metamorphoses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Elizabeth Klett. Metamorphoses by Publius Ovidius Naso. Translated by Brooks Moore. Book 7, Part 3. This narrative and many other tales had occupied the day. As twilight fell, festivities were blended in the night in turn afforded sweet repose. Soon as the golden sun had shown his light, the east wind blowing still, the ships were stayed from sailing home. The sons of Pallas came to Cephalus, who was the elder called, and Cephalus together with the sons of Pallas went to see the king. Deep sleep still held the king, and Phocas, who was the son of Acus, received them at the gate, instead of Telamon and Peleus, who were marshalling the men for war. Into the inner court and beautiful apartments Phocas conducted the Athenians, and they sat down together. Phocas then observed that Cephalus held in his hand a curious javelin with golden head, and shaft of some rare wood. And as they talked, he said, "It is my pleasure to explore the forest in the chase of startled game, and so I've learned the nature of rare woods, but never have I seen the match of this from which was fashioned this good javelin. It lacks the yellow tint of forest ash. It is not knotted like all corner wood. Although I cannot name the kind of wood, my eyes have never seen a javelin shaft so beautiful as this." To him replied a friend of Cephalus, "But you will find its beauty is not equal to its worth, for whatsoever it is aimed against, its flight is always certain to the mark, nor is it subject to the shift of chance, and after it is struck, although no hand may cast it back, it certainly returns, blood-stained with every victim." Then indeed was Phocas anxious to be told whence came and who had given such a precious gift, and Cephalus appeared to tell him all, but craftily was silent on one strange condition of the fatal gift. As he recalled the mournful fate of his dear wife, his eyes filled up with tears. "Ah, pity me," he said. "If fate should grant me many years, I must weep every time that I regard this weapon which has been my cause of tears, the unforgiven death of my dear wife. Ah, would that I had never handled it! My sweet wife, Procris! If you could compare her beauty with her sister's, Orithia's, ravished by the blustering Boreas, you would declare my wife more beautiful. 'Tis she her sire Erechtheus joined to me, 'tis she the god Love also joined to me. They called me happy, and in truth I was, and all pronounced us so until the gods decreed it otherwise. 2 joyful months of our united love were almost past, when, as the grey light of the dawn dispelled upon the summit of Hymettus green, Aurora, glorious in her golden robes, observed me busy with encircling nets, trapping the antlered deer. Against my will, incited by desire, she carried me away with her. Oh, let me not increase her anger, for I tell you what is true, I found no comfort in her lovely face. And although she is the very queen of light, and reigns upon the edge of shadowy space where she is nourished on rich nectar wine, adding delight to beauty, I could give no heed to her entreaties, for the thought of my beloved Procris intervened, and only her sweet name was on my lips. I told Aurora of our wedding joys and all refreshing joys of love, and my first union of my couch deserted now. Enraged against me, then the goddess said, "Keep to your Procris, I but trouble you, you ungrateful clown. But if you can be warned, you will no longer wish for her." And so in anger she returned me to my wife. Alas! as I retraced the weary way, long brooding over all Aurora said, suspicion made me doubtful of my wife, so faithful and so fair. But many things reminding me of steadfast virtue, I suppressed all doubts, until the dreary thought of my long absence filled my jealous mind, from which I argued to the criminal advances of Aurora. For if she, so lovely in appearance, did conceal such passion in the garb of innocence until the moment of temptation, how could I be certain of the purity of even the strongest when the best are frail? So brooding, every effort I devised to cause my own undoing. By the means of bribing presents, favoured by disguise, I sought to win her guarded chastity. Aurora had disguised me, and her guile determined me to work in subtle snares. Unknown to all my friends, I paced the streets of sacred Athens till I reached my home. I hoped to search out evidence of guilt, but everything seemed waiting my return, and all the household breathed an air of grief. With difficulty I, disguised, obtained an entrance to her presence by the use of artifices many, and when I there saw her, silent in her grief, amazed, my heart no longer prompted me to test such constant love. An infinite desire took hold upon me. I could scarce restrain an impulse to caress and kiss her. Pale with grief that I was gone, her lovely face in sorrow was more beautiful. The world has not another so divinely fair. Ah, Procris, it is wonderful to think of beauty so surpassing fair it seems more lovable in sorrow. Why relate to you how often she repulsed my feigned attempts upon her virtue? To each plea she said, I serve one man, no matter where he may be, I will keep my love for one. Who but a man insane with jealousy would doubt the virtue of a loving wife, when tempted by the most insidious wiles, whose hallowed honour was her husband's love? But I, not satisfied with proof complete, would not abandon my depraved desire to poison the pure fountain I should guard. Increasing my temptations, I caused her to hesitate, and covet a rich gift. Then, angered at my own success, I said, discarding all disguise, Behold the man whose lavish promise has established proof, the witness of your shameful treachery. Your absent husband has returned to this. Unable to endure a ruined home, where desecration held her sin to view, despairing and in silent shame she fled, and I, the author of that wickedness, ran after. But enraged at my deceit and hating all mankind, she wandered far in wildest mountains, hunting the wild game. I grieved at her desertion, and the fires of my neglected love consumed my health. With greater violence my love increased, until, unable to endure such pain, I begged forgiveness and acknowledged fault, nor hesitated to declare that I might yield, the same way tempted, if such great gifts had been offered to me. When I had made abject confession, and she had avenged her outraged feelings, she came back to me, and we spent golden years in harmony. She gave to me the hound she fondly loved, the very one Diana gave to her when lovingly the goddess had declared, This hound all others shall excel in speed. Nor was that gift the only one given by kind Diana when my wife was hers, as you may guess. This javelin I hold forth no other but a goddess could bestow. Would you be told the story of both gifts, attend my words, and you shall be amazed, for never such another sad event has added sorrow to the grieving world. After the son of Laius, Oedipus, had solved the riddle of the monster Sphinx, so often baffling to the wits of men, and after she had fallen from her hill, mangled, forgetful of her riddling craft, not unrevenged the mighty Themis brooked her loss. Without delay that goddess raised another savage beast to ravage Thebes, by which the farmers' cattle were devoured, the land was ruined, and its people slain. Then all the valiant young men of the realm, with whom I also went, enclosed the field, where lurked the monster, in a mesh of many tangled nets. But not a strand could stay its onrush, and it leapt the crest of every barrier where the toils were set. Already they had urged their eager dogs, which swiftly as a bird it left behind, eluding all the hunters as it fled. At last all begged me to let slip the leash of straining tempest, such I called the hound, my dear wife's present. As he tugged and pulled upon the tightened cords, I let them slip. No sooner done than he was lost to sight, although wherever struck his rapid feet the hot dust whirled. Not swifter flies the spear, nor whizzing bullet from the twisted sling, nor feathered arrow from the twanging bow. A high hill jutted from a rolling plain on which I mounted to enjoy the sight of that unequalled chase. One moment caught, the next as surely free, the wild beast seemed now here, now there, elusive in its flight, swiftly sped onward, or with sudden turn doubled in circles to deceive or gain. With equal speed pursuing at each turn, the rapid hound could neither gain nor lose. Now springing forward, and now doubling back, his great speed foiled, he snapped at empty air. I then turned to my javelin's aid, and while I poised it in my right hand, turned away my gaze a moment as I sought to twine my practised fingers in the guiding thongs. But when again I lifted up my eyes to cast the javelin where the monster sped, I saw two marble statues standing there, transformed upon the plain. One statue seemed to stray in an attitude of rapid flight, the other with wide open jaws was changed, just in the act of barking and pursuit. Surely some god, if any god controls, decreed both equal, neither could succeed. Now after these miraculous events, it seemed he wished to stop, but Phocas said, What charge have you against the javelin? And Cephalus rejoined, I must relate my sorrows last, for I would tell you first the story of my joys. 'Tis sweet to think upon the gliding tide of those few years of married life, when my dear wife and I were happy in our love and confidence. No woman could allure me then from her, and even Venus could not tempt my love. All my great passion for my dearest wife was equalled by the passion she returned. As early as the sun, when golden rays first glittered on the mountains, I would rise in youthful ardour, to explore the fields in search of game. With no companions, hounds, nor steeds, nor nets, this javelin was alone my safety and my companion in my sport. And often when my right hand felt its weight, awearied of the slaughter it had caused, I would come back to rest in the cool shade, and breezes from cool vales, the breeze I wooed, blowing so gently on me in the heat, the breeze I waited for, she was my rest from labour. I remember, "Aura, come," I used to say, "come soothe me, come into my breast, most welcome one, and yes, indeed, you do relieve the heat with which I burn." And as I felt the sweet breeze of the morn, as if in answer to my song, my fate impelled me further to declare my joy in song. You are my comfort, you are my delight, refresh me, cherish me, breathe on my face, I love you, child of lonely haunts and trees. Such words I once was singing, not aware of some one spying on me from the trees, who thought I sang to some beloved nymph, or goddess by the name of Aura, so I always called the breeze. Unhappy man! The meddling telltale went to Procris with a story of supposed unfaithfulness, and slyly told in whispers all he heard. True love is credulous, and as I heard the story, Procris in a swoon fell down. When she awakened from her bitter swoon, she ceased not wailing her unhappy fate, and wretched moaned for an imagined woe. So she lamented what was never done. Her woe incited by a whispered tale, she feared the fiction of a harmless name. But hope returning soothed her wretched state, and now no longer willing to believe such wrong, unless her own eyes saw it, she refused to think her husband sinned. When dawn had banished night, and I, rejoicing, ranged the breathing woods, victorious in the hunt, paused and said, "Come, Aura, lovely breeze, relieve my panting breast." It seemed I heard the smothered moans of sorrow as I spoke, but not conceiving harm, I said again, "Come here, O my delight." And as those words fell from my lips, I thought I heard a soft sound in the thicket, as of moving leaves, and thinking surely 'twas a hidden beast, I threw this winged javelin at the spot. It was my own wife, Procris, and the shaft was buried in her breast. "Ah, wretched me!" she cried, and when I heard her well-known voice, distracted I ran towards her, only to find her bathed in blood, and dying from the wound of that same javelin she had given to me, and in her agony she drew it forth, ah me, alas, from her dear tender side. I lifted her limp body to my own, in these blood-guilty arms, and wrapped the wound with fragments of my tunic, that I tore in haste to stanch her blood, and all the while I moaned, "Oh, do not now forsake me, slain by these accursed hands." Weak with the loss of blood, and dying, she compelled herself to utter these few words, "It is my death, but let my eyes not close upon this life before I plead with you. By the dear ties of sacred marriage, by your God and mine, and if my love for you can move your heart, and even by the cause of my sad death, my love for you increasing as I die, ah, put away that Aura you have called, that she may never separate your soul, your love, from me." So by those dying words I knew that she had heard me call the name of Aura, when I wished the cooling breeze, and thought I called a goddess, cause of all her jealous sorrow in my bitter woe. Alas, too late I told her the sad truth, but she was sinking, and her little strength swiftly was ebbing with her flowing blood. As long as life remained, her loving gaze was fixed on mine, and her unhappy life at last was breathed out on my grieving face. It seemed to me a look of sweet content was in her face, as if she feared not death. In tears he told these things, and as they wept in came the aged monarch Aegeus, and with the monarch his two valiant sons, and troops, new levied, trained to glorious arms. End of Book 7, Part 3.